What is down, everybody? Here's your main course, Little Pancake. Welcome back to another video. Today, we are talking about another animal. Guess where it's from? The Philippines. And it is the Philippine Tarsier. The Tarsier. That's how Wikipedia told me to pronounce it. Look at this guy. This is an odd-looking fella. You would think he's got some interesting stories to tell. I mean, look at those eyes. That animal has seen some things. But yeah, what's up with our little fella? I don't know. Let's find out, shall we? So, it is known locally by many names. Two actually. In Cebuano. It's known locally as the Mawamag, and in Waray, it's known locally as the Mago. It's got some street cred, you could say. As I mentioned previously, it is endemic to the Philippines. It is found in the more southeastern parts of the Philippines, notably the islands of Bohol, Samar, and Leyte. But it's also found on a lot of smaller islands and a lot of other islands as well. But those are the big players, the big hitters. What's up with its what's up with the taxonomy? It is a member of the Tarsidae family. And that name is derived from an elongated tarsus. A tarsus is an ankle bone. So they've got long ankles. It is the only member of the genus Carlito, which is a pretty new classification named after the conservationist Carlito Pizarras. So our boy Carlito got some recognition. The species name of the Philippine Tarsier is Carlito sirichta, and it's got three subspecies: the Sirichta, the Sirichta fraterculus, and the Sirichta carbonarius. So there you go. Before 2010, all tarsiers were in the same genus of Tarsius. Two scientists known as Shackell and Groves said, hold up, something's amiss among this community, and they gave the Philippine Tarsier its own genus, Carlito, as aforementioned. There was quite a long period of time before this. The Philippine Tarsier was first described officially in 1705 by J. Petiver, and it got the name Cercopithecus luzonis minimus because he's tiny. Then our boy Linnaeus, if you know anything about scientific naming history, you know Linnaeus is a big player. In 1758, he changed the name to Simia Sirichta. And then finally, the name that it has now wasn't gifted to the Tarsier until 2010, which is a long time to be questioning your name. I mean, it's got to be hard to have an identity, you know? I mean, imagine yourself as a Tarsier, and you've been referred to as Simia Sirichta for so long, and I mean, hundreds of years later, they're like, you know what, we're gonna switch it up. I mean, talk about an identity crisis. I mentioned earlier that the original name had minimus in the name, so why would that be? Why are they minimizing their presence? Well, they are about 3.35 to 6.3 inches tall. So about that tall to about that tall, maybe. So they're not very, very tall. That's 85 to 160 millimeters. They are also very light. The males typically weigh 2.8 to 5.6 ounces, which is 80 to 160 grams, and females are typically a little lighter than the males. That's not very heavy. That's lighter than a can of Dr. Pepper. They do have quite nice tails, though. Their tails are about twice as long as their bodies, so body about that long, tail about that long. They are one of the smallest primates in the world. They're not the smallest, but they're one of. They're working on it. They're about the size of a human fist. So about that big. So, I mean, not quite as big as a can of Dr. Pepper. You know what I mean? Maybe a little thicker, but they're pretty small. They're pretty small. Female tarsiers actually have multiple pairs of breasts. So do with that information what you will. I'm not sure how it could be relevant to your life, but I'm sure that'll help somebody out someday. And there's really no reason for this. Only the pectoralis set is functional. So only the ones on humans that are functional on tarsiers. But they've got extras. I guess it's just for show, you know. Who could be mad about that, I guess. There is some spectated use. They say other breasts could be used to anchor newborn tarsiers. But I think it's just for fun. You know, I think they just kind of like it. Babies are born with fur and their eyes open. They are born ready to go. They come out and they're like, "What's up? Where am I? Who are you? Where's food? Which one of these boobs do I need to suck on?" Anyway, it's got to be confusing though as a kid. I mean, as a little baby, you don't even know which ones are gonna feed you. That's got to be tough. It's a tough life. Tarsier gestation lasts for about 180 days, which is very long for an animal that small. Typically, gestation is kind of a heavy correlation with animal size. A very positive correlation with animal size. But I guess not in the case with the Philippine Tarsier. Their eyes are fixed to their skull, which means they can't do this. They can't do that. They have to turn their entire head, so they have to go like that. And so they're kind of like the owls of the mammal kingdom. They can twist their neck 180 degrees, so they can turn and look behind them without moving their eyes. Pretty wild, pretty cool stuff. They also have very large eyes, and I mean very large eyes, so large that they are actually the largest eye to body ratio of any mammal in the world. We don't know about Mars. There could be another one out there, but as far as we know, this is it. So these large eyes help them because they're nocturnal. What a transition. What a seamless flow of information. Man, I'm good. One of their eyes, just one singular eye, is larger than their brain. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They got small brains and big eyes. I know a couple people like that. Their pupils are also very versatile. When in bright light, when the sun's shining on them, they're getting a little tan. Their pupils can constrict down to just a little itty bitty teeny tiny speck on those big old eyes. But when it's dark, nighttime, they're on the prowl. They're hunting. They're trying to get some dinner. Their pupils can almost fill their entire eyes. Their ears, unlike their eyes, are extremely mobile. They can flip around, flick around, follow noise, pew, 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 pew. So that's pretty cool. They also have thin fur with a rough kind of texture, and it's typically like a grayish, dark brownish color, but it's not very soft fur. Their tail is bald. No fur, except for the tip. The tip has a little tuft. A tuft on the tip, as they say. Remember, previously I talked about an elongated ankle bone? A tarsus may have you. So the functionality of that is it lets them jump very far. They can jump just about 10 feet from tree to tree. Now, 10 feet may not sound like a lot, but when you're this big, that's pretty far. It also has very long fingers and toes that kind of help it wrap around some tree branches, and they have these like rounded pads on the tips of their fingers and toes that really help them grip those trees and cling on and not let go. Their thumbs are actually not completely opposable. They can't go like this with their thumbs, losers, but they can with their first toe, which is arguably cooler. They're primarily insectivorous, so they eat insects. They also eat kind of spiders and small crustaceans, and they have been known to eat some tiny lizards and tinier birds, which that would be a frightening sight to see this guy eating a bird. That might give me nightmares. It might. But yeah, their favorite prey, typically they stick to crickets and grasshoppers, the typical yummy insects. You ever eaten a cricket? They're not great, but they're not that bad. Where they live, their habitat consists pretty much of secondary forests, and some primary forests. They can live up to an elevation of 2,300 feet or 700 meters, so they don't mind a little cool mountain air. They can also be found in tropical rainforests and denser vegetation like tall grasses and bushes, bamboo, stuff like that, where it's kind of hard for predators to get through. And they typically perch up in trees about 6 foot 7 inches off the ground, about 2 meters above the ground. So they're not up in the tippy tops of big towering trees, but they don't stay too close to the ground. It's gonna take a tall guy to look at one in the eyes. Recent research, this is pretty darn recent, shows that males have a range of about 15.9 acres, which is a pretty big range for such a small creature. And females have about a 6-acre range, which is also pretty big range. And they're very territorial, and they can fight to the death over territory, which this little guy should not be fighting with anyone, especially not to the death. But here we are. Males and females are pretty solitary, both of them. They cross paths occasionally at nighttime when they're out lurking for something to eat, but pretty typically they stay to themselves. Sleep during the day in kind of dark hollows, dense bushes, dense forests. You're not gonna just stumble upon one in the daytime. Very active at night. Very good at avoiding humans, though. It's hard to find them. It's hard to stumble upon a tarsier. Something very interesting is, I guess this should have been a little bit previous in the video. I placed it wrong on the document, but they can be polyamorous or monogamous. Populations have been found with both traits, which is very odd. Typically, a species is one or the other. You don't see certain populations sleeping around and certain populations being faithful. It's usually across the board, but not with these guys. Very interesting. Very interesting. Their vocalizations, they have 3 distinct kind of calls. A loud call, which is just like loud, and then they have more of a kind of like a yell, and they have more of a soft bird-like sound, which is thought by scientists to express contentment, express happiness. You catch a nice fat juicy cricket, you might do a bird sound. They can also do a chirping sound, kind of a locust insecty kind of sound. And this typically happens when multiple tarsiers come together and they're hanging out. So maybe it's more of a social noise. They can also vocalize in the ultrasound frequency, which we can't hear, but it's thought to communicate distress, and is typically done by infants. It's also made by males during the mating season to spread word that they are ready. They also communicate through scent from their circumoral gland, which females use to mark their mate. So, kind of like a girl drawing a heart on your hand with a Sharpie. It's like, this one's mine. And then males mark their territory, typically with urine. like a lot of mammals. So, there you go. The female estrus cycle lasts 25 to 28 days, and mating season is from April to May, which is pretty cool. That's a nice springtime babies. Females typically only give birth to one offspring, which does not add up with the multiple boobs. Newborns typically immediately know how to climb branches and start leaping to and fro in less than a month after being born. So they are fast to it. They breastfeed for about 2 months, about 60 days. They don't stick around for too long. And then they're sexually mature after 2 years. Now, let's talk about its relationship with humans. It's kind of conservation status. Conservation status. It's listed by the IUCN as near threatened, and the US ESA as threatened. So we're not in endangered territory yet. We're not like panicking, but it's kind of trending that direction. There is a tarsier sanctuary located in Karela Bohol, and it preserves an area of about 75,000 square feet in a natural forest. It's run by the Philippine Tarsier Foundation. It's estimated by the Philippine Tarsier Foundation that about 700 tarsiers remain on the island of Bohol. So it's only one island. 700 is not a lot. The numbers of population have been dropping pretty steadily due to expansion of humans, chopping down a lot of Philippine forest. And there is not much threat from hunting. Indigenous tribes and indigenous peoples do not hunt the tarsier because they are scared that it brings bad luck, which I understand. I mean, looking at it, I see their point. And they also have pretty much no natural predators. I'm sure, if a tiger sees one just sitting there, he might just, munch it, but no real natural predators. One problem is humans keeping them as pets. That's not good. So they do really poorly in captivity. And their lifespans can drop 50%. So in the wild, their lifespan is about 24 years. And when put in captivity, these can drop to about 12 years in certain situations. They do not do well. They have even been on record committing suicide in captivity due to touching loud noises and trauma caused by this. They do very poorly when put in a cage, which I don't blame them. I think I would as well. So don't keep them as a pet. This is a public service announcement. Don't put a tarsier in your bedroom. They have been a nationally protected species for a while, since 1991, thanks to Republic Act number 7586. That Republic Act also mandated some sanctuaries to preserve the species. And it's been well protected. Hopefully, it can keep this stable population. Hopefully, we don't see very many decreases, but only time will tell. The policies in place to protect them. We will see how humans respond and respect the creature. There's not really that much we can do. We can educate people. We can spread the word. You could donate to the Philippine Tarsier Foundation, maybe. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. But mostly, we just have to rely on the rich and powerful and hope they do the best they can. Which is kind of bleak, but things are looking fairly good for the tarsier. So, on that note, we're going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it, really enjoyed recording it. I think this is an awesome species, and tell your friends about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Make someone else's day better if you can. And I will see all of y'all later.